Open an ERPNext document, and you may see submitted to deliver, unpaid, or open at the same time. These labels do not mean the same thing. One tells you whether the document is a formal record, while another tells you how far the business process has progressed. This lesson uses an already validated anonymous selling and purchasing chain to explain draft, submitted, cancelled, and how to trace linked transactions. Step 1 separates the three status layers. At database level, doc status has only three values: 0 for draft, 1 for submitted, and 2 for cancelled. Draft is for entry and review. After submission, the document becomes a formal business record, and stock or accounting impact applies according to the document type. Cancellation reverses a formal record. It is not the same as deletion. The quotation on screen is submitted, while its business status remains open because customer confirmation is still pending. Step 2 traces the quotation into the sales order. This order was generated from the quotation instead of being retyped. The item row retains the quotation source, and the follow-up reference, promise date, and internal note move with the source document. To deliver and bill is business progress. Submitted is the document lifecycle. First check whether the document is formal, and then read the business status to decide what must happen next. Step 3 follows the sales order into the delivery note. The delivery note is submitted. 5 units remain linked to the sales order, and the document controls the actual stock movement. It does not recognize revenue. Connections and source fields let warehouse users identify the originating order without relying on chat messages, while sales users can trace how much has been delivered and what remains outstanding. Step 4 inspects the sales invoice. The total remains 1,300 and the source chain is retained, but the invoice recognizes receivables and revenue rather than physical delivery. A delivery note and a sales invoice may come from the same sales order, yet they are different documents with different effects. Read document type, submission state, source references, and business status together instead of trusting one color or one label. Step 5 applies the same method to purchasing. The submitted purchase order contains 8 units at 150 for a total of 1,200. It formally authorizes procurement, but it does not prove that goods arrived or that a payable was posted. Copying fields along the selling chain also does not create a purchase order automatically. Sales-driven procurement still needs a material request, order-specific procurement, or a tested automation rule. Step 6 traces the purchase order into the purchase receipt. The receipt confirms that 8 units actually arrived in the designated warehouse, and each row retains its purchase order source. A promise date is a procurement commitment, while a receipt is an execution result. Editing a date cannot be used as evidence of arrival. The submitted purchase receipt is the formal receiving record in this chain. Step 7 uses the purchase invoice to recognize the payable. It can be created from the receipt, keeps the 1,200 total, and links back to both purchase order and purchase receipt. Submission confirms the payable. It does not prove payment. Payment and allocation require a separate payment entry. The key is not to collapse submitted, received, invoiced, and paid into one status. Step 8 explains why cancellation is not deletion. A formal cancellation normally requires downstream dependencies to be handled first, and the system reverses the formal impact. Corrections usually use cancel and amend instead of directly editing a submitted transaction. This lesson does not cancel the validated source chain only for a demonstration, so it explains the rule without pretending that cancellation was performed. Check permissions, downstream documents, and the accounting period in an isolated environment before doing it. In summary, use draft, submitted, and cancel to understand the document lifecycle. Use open to deliver, unpaid, completed, and similar labels to understand business progress. Then use connections, source fields, and row references to trace upstream and downstream documents. Keeping these 3 layers separate lets you answer whether a transaction is formal, where the process stands, and who should act next.